Right now on Currents News, keeping the commitment despite a difficult year, these people are one step closer to becoming Catholic. Plus, COVID update, more vaccination sites open in the city as the country passes 500,000 deaths due to the disease. Strong denial. Bishop DiMarzio is speaking out against sexual abuse allegations after a lawsuit is filed against him. Coming back online, power is being restored after winter storms in Texas, but some are seeing skyrocketing energy bills. And scare in the air. A Boeing engine explodes mid-flight, raining debris on residential neighborhoods. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. This past year has been extremely difficult for most people, but one group isn't letting that slow their journey into entering the Catholic faith. Currents News' Emily Druby has more, as many in Prospect Heights say the past year only made their resolve stronger.
A milestone moment for Jasmine Zuniga's faith journey, one that will lead to her baptism.
It's a big thing, and it's something I've been working for, and it's just a miracle.
After months of studying and preparing, the high schooler took part in the rite of election. This kicks off the final phase of preparation in the rite of Christian initiation of adults, the process that lets adults enter the church, leading to an Easter Vigil baptism. Corey Mendenhall, who grew up Mormon, is on a similar journey.
I've accepted or wanted to be a Catholic Christian for a long time, so it's an exciting step to make that official.
This year in the Diocese of Brooklyn, there are 252 catechumens, or people who have never been baptized, like Jasmine. There are also 285 candidates, or people who have been baptized but haven't received the other sacraments. 22 are converting to Catholicism after being baptized in another religion. Smaller numbers than some years, but their unwavering devotion during a harrowing year truly shines.
These are the stormtroopers, in a sense. They really have taken a lot of time and effort in the parishes where they were being prepared. These people really wanted to have their baptism.
The pandemic forcing program leaders to rethink the way they operate, including moving classes online.
With the use of Zoom, with AV equipment, with programming.
Even the rite of election, which is for the catechumens, was different this year. 4 took place in churches across the diocese.
Our priests, our parishes, our people who are the teams that catechize these candidates, that they didn't give up. Even during difficult times, they found a way to continue the program. But for the catechumens, like Jasmine and Corey, dealing with the pandemic changes was just a small price to pay for a life filled with faith. In Prospect Heights, Emily Druby, Currents News.
The Department of Education has reinstated 3 Catholic pre-K programs: Sacred Heart Catholic Academy in Glendale, Queens, St. Joseph's Catholic Academy in Long Island City, and St. Catherine of Genoa, St. Therese of Lisieux in East Flatbush are back open. The schools have been battling the DOE since last September, when over 100 programs across the city were not renewed for the following year. The Pre-K for All program has been one of Mayor Bill de Blasio's signature initiatives since launching in 2014. Be sure to tune in to Currents News Tuesday night for a full report on the renewals. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio is once again strongly denying a sex abuse accusation following a lawsuit filed in New Jersey last week. The allegation goes back nearly 50 years, when the bishop was a priest in the Archdiocese of Newark. Attorney Mitchell Garabedian went public nearly a year ago with his intention to file a lawsuit and is just now doing so. Last March, the bishop took a lie detector test, and his denial of the abuse was found to be truthful by an independent polygrapher. He's vowing to fight the charges, saying, "There is nothing new here," from the original letter of complaint from March 2020, where the accuser sought $20 million. "I did not abuse the accuser or anyone else in my 50-year ministry as a priest. This is defamatory. False claims do real damage to victims of sexual abuse. The accuser did not attend the parish or the parish school and does not appear to have been Catholic. Anyone with a minimal understanding of parish life knows that it stretches the imagination to think a priest would be providing private catechism lessons to a non-Catholic 6 or 7-year-old on a one-to-one basis. Additionally, I simply resided at the parish in question as I was assigned by the Archdiocese of Newark to minister full-time at Catholic Charities. The Vatican conducted an investigation into Bishop DiMarzio last year, known as Vos Estis. The bishop met with investigators and answered all questions asked of him. That investigation was sent to the Vatican, and the public is currently awaiting the findings. The accuser's attorney, Mitchell Garabedian, is also representing another alleged victim who made a sexual abuse claim against Bishop DiMarzio in November of 2019. That lawsuit, as of yet, has not been filed. More vaccines and vaccination sites are coming to New York City. Last week's winter storms delayed the delivery of shots around the city, but Mayor Bill de Blasio says a new shipment has arrived.
The supply that we expected last week is arriving today. That means we've basically lost a full week in our vaccination efforts, but it will not stop us.
The mayor has appointed a recovery czar to try to supercharge the Big Apple. Brooklyn, meantime, got a visit from Governor Andrew Cuomo, who was touring the new vaccine site at Medgar Evers College. The site opens Wednesday to deliver up to 3,000 shots for the residents of Crown Heights and the surrounding neighborhoods. The news comes as the country reaches 500,000 COVID deaths and approaches the one-year anniversary of the pandemic. On Capitol Hill, the fight for relief inches ever closer as the House Budget Committee meets to mark up President Biden's nearly 600-page bill. Mary Maloney has more.
If I could tell her anything, I said, babe, I love you so much. I know that the Lord has you.
Millions of memories about the 500,000 American lives lost to COVID-19.
She was my biggest role model.
Definitely going to be really hard without her.
On Capitol Hill, a moment of silence.
In remembrance of more than 500,000 Americans who've passed away from the COVID-19 virus.
Families shattered, businesses shuttered, and the economy devastated.
American small businesses are hurting badly, and they need help now.
To help the smallest of businesses and nonprofits, starting Wednesday, President Biden is giving those with fewer than 20 employees exclusive access to apply for Paycheck Protection Program loans for 2 weeks.
This is a starting point, not the ending point. We need Congress to pass my American Rescue Plan.
As of now, the nearly $2 trillion plan has no congressional Republican support.
This is the wrong plan at the wrong time and for all the wrong reasons.
But Democrats sticking together are moving toward a House vote by the end of the week.
We aren't going to wait. We are going to pass this legislation, and we are going to turn this pandemic and economic crisis around.
Their goal, get the bill signed into law by March 14th. In Washington, Mary Maloney, Currents News.
The Supreme Court is listening to two important cases. The High Court will review a challenge to President Trump's restriction on the Title X program. The policy barred federal family planning funds from going to abortion clinics. Also up for debate, the constitutionality of President Trump's so-called public charge rule. It makes it harder for immigrants to get green cards or visas if they are on public assistance. The situation at the border was already reaching dire straits as the number of migrant crossings surged during the pandemic. U.S. Customs and Border Protection reports about 78,000 people were apprehended at the southern border in January. The migrants have permission to move on with court notices. Some wait inside an old nightclub that's been turned into a Catholic Charities shelter. There are still roughly 20,000 migrants stranded on the other side of the border. President Joe Biden may go to Texas as early as this week. White House staff say the president is eager to visit the hard-hit area after declaring a major disaster declaration. It unlocks federal aid, grants for temporary housing, and low-cost loans to cover uninsured property losses. That aid couldn't come at a better time as the state continues to thaw out from severe winter storms. Right now, about 17,000 Texans are still without power, but that number is down from millions. But nearly 9 million are still under boil water advisories after freezing temperatures caused water lines to burst and service disruptions. Millions of bottles of water have been handed out by the National Guard. The hardship continues with food and gas shortages, and now for some, surprise utility bills. Daryl Forges has the latest from Houston.
As Texas thaws out, infrastructure problems remain.
We estimate this may be as high as the emergency relief during Hurricane Harvey.
While Houston was able to lift its boil water advisory Sunday afternoon, about 1/3 of the state was still under a boil water notice as of last night.
I think I might be sore by next week from just carrying jugs of water.
And many others are dealing with the damage left by broken water pipes and flooding.
We need a lot of plumbing materials and supplies like right now.
Another issue facing some Texas residents, skyrocketing energy bills due to the increased market demand.
Usually when we have a bad bill, which we were bracing for, our normal month's usage is about $80 for February. We were anticipating $300 or $400, but never in any stretch of the imagination did I think $6,700 would be what they charged me.
In response, the Texas Public Utilities Commission has temporarily banned power companies from billing customers or disconnecting them for not paying. Some state and local leaders think the state should absorb the cost of the sky-high bills.
It would be unconscionable for bills to go up and for bills to be put on the backs of residents of the state that have been suffering and freezing in their homes for the last week through no fault of their own.
That was Daryl Forges reporting. Later on here on Currents News, we'll speak with a member of the Diocese of Austin about how the Catholic Church is helping those affected by the severe weather. A Brooklyn man was left in the cold as temperatures drop and his furnace broke. But thanks to the generosity of one Catholic, he's feeling a whole lot warmer. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has more from Bedford-Stuyvesant.
When the flame came up, boop, boop.
When the freezing winter air came creeping into Edgar Balance's home, he had nowhere to turn.
I called my brother up and told him the flame had went out. And he came here, checking it out, and when he left here, I couldn't come on.
Edgar then called someone to look at his boiler that was 40 years old, but he felt like he was being scammed.
The tip of my fingers was hurting, it was cold. And I told him I had it running, but it's not running now. He acted like he didn't care.
Edgar doesn't know exactly how long he sat in his home before his luck changed.
One of my supervisors went out. He found the man to be in real dire need. It was very cold, freezing in his home.
Anthony Vigilante is the CEO of Vigilante Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. When one of his technicians was called out to Edgar's home by a neighbor, he came back shaken.
We just felt that it was the right thing to do unto others and do something well for this man.
I told him on Friday.
It would have cost more than $12,000 to replace Edgar's boiler and hot water heater. But knowing how desperately he needed it, Vigilante did it for free.
That's the first time I saw that. Wow.
The equipment was installed the next day.
I thank God for that. It was a blessing. I can't even express it. If I was a millionaire, I would show them my appreciation. It meant more to me than the whole world.
It might come as a surprise, but Anthony says in his line of work, faith comes into play every day.
Jesus is an example. I always try to do as much I can to follow in his footsteps and do things the way he would do.
You can do a lot of things,
Edgar says he prays every day for protection.
You see that little cross up in the hallway up the steps? Every time I walk out, I put my hand on that and ask God to take me and bring me safely. And I pray for other people too. He did me some good.
And when he needed it most, his prayers were answered. In Bedford-Stuyvesant, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
A great story. Still ahead, terrifying moments mid-flight. We'll show you what happens after a plane engine explodes thousands of feet up in the air. Plus, Father Bruce Neely of Austin will talk about how the diocese has been affected by the big storms there and how the Catholic Church is helping out. And a history-making meeting for Pope Francis. We'll tell you who he spoke with.
There are now some big changes to the tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
Terrifying moments as a plane's engine explodes mid-flight. The NTSB is now investigating after the near disaster just outside of Denver over the weekend. The engine of United Airlines Flight 328 blowing up in the air and debris raining down on residential neighborhoods. Boeing is now recommending 777s with that type of engine be grounded.
There's a loud boom heard in the area of 17th Avenue and Cedar Street.
All around Broomfield, Colorado Saturday.
Large debris falling from the sky, engine blew.
An unbelievable sight led to countless concerned phone calls.
Oh my God.
Hang on one second, we're getting blown up with 911 calls.
They immediately answered with, "Are you calling about the plane?" And I said, "Yep."
Josh Toten was among the many people flooding Broomfield 911's lines.
I saw a few puffs of black smoke come out, and then about 10 seconds after I saw that initial fireball, I heard it explode. My main concern was watching all those pieces come off because I knew they were over a very populated area.
Zach Allen had his concerns too. His Tesla captured this video showing a flash and trail of smoke coming from the plane.
I've watched planes enough to know that something serious happened at that moment.
Rather than call 911, Allen went home and filed a report with the FAA.
I hope the video helps the investigators or anybody else, just get more of a better understanding of what happened.
The flight made an emergency landing at Denver International Airport. No one on the plane or on the ground was injured. Now, as investigators piece through what happened to United Flight 328, every bit of debris,
there was a small boom,
and every personal account could have some value.
17th and Cedar for airplane that possibly exploded in the air.
Snapshots of a frightening day that could have been worse.
Nobody on the aircraft was injured. They landed safely. Nobody on the ground was injured. I don't think you could have a better outcome.
United is the only U.S. airline with that type of engine in its fleet and has removed 24 of its Boeing 777s out of service. This is just the latest trouble for Boeing, which saw its 737 MAX planes grounded for more than a year after 2 deadly crashes in 2019. More now from Texas and the aftermath of that massive winter storm. Thousands are still without power and drinking water. The churches have stepped up to help. Joining us now with an update is Father Bruce Neely from the Diocese of Austin. Father, I hear it's finally warming up where you are with temperatures in the 70s. How are things right now?
Much, much better, and people are much more upbeat and lifted up.
I'm glad to hear that. And I know you sent us a picture of the grocery stores. Tell me how they're holding up. You said you had to wait in line for hours just to get inside.
The lines have been humongously long. Now the fast food lines are just out of sight. The grocery stores themselves are much more open, but out of food. Out of food. So keep us in prayer. We're doing our best. But we in the church are encouraging. HEB has been wonderful, giving out food free. The food banks have been excellent. Central Texas Catholic Charities has been wonderful. So a lot of the nonprofits have just gone out of their way. But it's an uphill battle.
A lot of problems were caused by frozen pipes bursting, making a mess of people's homes and leaving them without water. Let's listen to one woman dealing with that.
We would love showers, but we'll get that when we get our water turned back on.
Oh, that's awful. Was your church affected by the power loss or broken pipes?
The church, and I live right next to a church. I'm a Paulist, and my Paulist brothers staff St. Austin Church. They've been more or less blessed because it's downtown, it's near the state capitol, it's near the governor's house, and so forth. But some of the outer-lying places have been devastated. I think at least 10 churches in the Diocese of Austin have been flooded. Yeah.
Oh, that's awful. And I know you do a lot of work with immigrants at the border. How has this storm and its aftermath affected that work?
Oh, I'm very active with immigrants right here in Central Texas, but even on the border, Rio Grande, Rio Bravo, some of the refugees. Oh, they're frozen. They've a little bit of an upbeat with the new administration's outreach to them in terms of processing, but still, the numbers have grown, and they're waiting for hope. My grandfather came from Sicily to Brooklyn, by the way, out of poverty. And he and my dad started a hardware store in Merrick, Long Island. So I was born in your diocese.
Okay.
And my parish, Curia of Ars, they donated the shovel, my dad and his father, for the first parish named after St. John Vianney, the Curia of Ars parish in Merrick, which produced the pro-life movement. So those have been my two passions, pro-life and pro-immigrant. And that's why it's a delight to have roots in Brooklyn.
Well, we're glad to have you being from our diocese and now doing such good work down there in Texas. Father Bruce Neely from the Diocese of Austin. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Christine. God bless you.
If you'd like to help those affected by the storm in Texas, you can head to the Catholic Charities of Central Texas website at ccctx.org/donate. An investigation is underway into a fire that destroyed a Catholic church building in Pennsylvania. A parishioner says she was cleaning inside when others smelled smoke and they rushed out of the building. Fire crews arrived quickly and were able to save the church itself, but the rectory and social hall were destroyed. Parishioners are praying for better days.
It's just a heartfelt day. It's a sad day in Hooversville. It's going to take a lot to recover. Hopefully, I don't know if they'll rebuild or not, but hopefully they can rebuild or do something.
2 firefighters were treated at the scene for minor injuries, but no one else was hurt. Pope Francis is ready for Lent. Coming up, we'll tell you how the Holy Father will spend part of the season and one man's plans on sticking to a very interesting diet for Lent. But this isn't the first time he's sticking to the suds. Pope Francis and the Curia are in personal Lenten retreats. This year, they will not be able to have spiritual exercises together due to COVID-19 restrictions. Instead, the Holy Father sent the cardinals copies of a 17th century book of spiritual meditations. The Pope has suspended all his engagements until the 26th. The Pope's retreat coming after he met with a 90-year-old Holocaust survivor. Edith Bruck spent time in Auschwitz and lost most of her family. She has spent 2/3 of her life in Italy, and her story was recently featured in a magazine. Pope Francis thanked her for her account of the Holocaust and prayed for those who were killed. Catholics in Iraq are getting ready for the Pope's visit. The pontiff will be spending a few days in the country next month. Christians there have suffered violence and persecution for their faith. Hundreds of thousands live as refugees after ISIS insurgencies. Young Iraqis in particular are very excited for the visit, according to local clergy. And Currents News will have all-inclusive coverage of the Pope's trip to Iraq, his first journey since the pandemic took hold. That begins on Friday, March 5th through the 8th. And finally tonight, the question always comes up around Ash Wednesday. What are you giving up for Lent? Well, an Ohio man is giving up food and going on an all-beer diet. Del Hall says for the next 40 days, he will be on an all-liquid diet. Coffee, tea, water, and between 3 to 5 beers every day. During the challenge, Del is asking for tips that will go to restaurants struggling during the pandemic. And for those who are wondering, Del has done this before, and get this, he actually lost weight and lowered his cholesterol and blood pressure. I don't know if I believe that. All right, that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.